Hey, what is going on? Welcome to another episode of One on One with Courtney Starks. It is so good to be back with you all. It's going to be a good one. I'm happy to have you guys here. It's been a very, very long week, but thank you guys for joining in. Thank you for all your prayers, guys. I received every single one of them from the bottom of my heart. I thank you. I thank you for praying for me. I thank you for keeping me, just keeping me lifted in spirits. But we are back. We are back with all new episodes. And I am happy to... I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, y'all. This is a live show. So a lot of people are like hitting me up. I'm here, y'all. I'm here. Yes, I am happy to be here. We have a week-long episode of shows. A week long. From today until Saturday. We have loads of amazing guests. I can't wait to give you the opportunity to meet them. But I just want to know how you guys are doing. How you guys are coping. How has your week been? It flies by. Today I know it's only Monday, but it feels like August is almost over. I am going to get ready to bring in the first guest for this week. I have known this young lady, I want to say forever and ever. Forever, ever. You know what I mean? Like, grew up in the same neighborhood, and she's just been a force to be reckoned with. I'm just going to say that. Just because of what it is. Like, no nonsense. Say it like you mean it. Just all about just giving back and pouring into the community. She is the founder of the BU Experience and the CEO of Lyrical Dreams. She's an activist in her own right. She's an author and she's a spoken word artist. Let's give it up for Miss Delsy Alvarez.
Hello.
Yo,
Can
how
you hear
are
me?
you? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm
Can you hear
good.
me good?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Is
Okay.
everything
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, everything
Is
is
it?
good.
I never know. I never know until I'm watching it back and I'm like, why did somebody just say this while I was yapping?
I'm like, I
Um,
wanna, I wanna.
Tell whoever's next to you to join the live. Join
Right.
in on the live.
I'm like, I'm
You
on
over
the
there. um, but it's so great to have you. Man,
line.
I was just saying as I was giving my spiel that I've known you forever, Dels.
Yeah, legit. Like, I think we knew each other since
Literally,
we was kids. Like,
literally, when we talk about the sandbox, I've known you since we were like kids.
yeah, like literally
Damn,
kids.
Dels,
Like,
we
we used
get
to be in the park playing, like
yo,
chilling, sitting on a bench, like good old
yo,
days.
good
Watching the
old days.
watching
But
everybody
how
grow
have
up.
right, and we kind of go our separate ways, but it's always good to be able to stay in connection no matter where we are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, how have these last couple of months been for you?
It's been different. It's been really, really different. It's been super transitional. It's been rough, because it's like you have to now we have to figure out like how do we do what we do in a
Mm-hmm.
virtual world? Like how does, how would it look like when I release my book? Like it's just a lot of stuff that kind of like comes into play when it comes to
Yeah,
like the way the world is now. So it's been like tricky, but it's I've been productive though for the most part. I gotta say, like
yeah,
I've tried to find some type of peace and some type of everything. I'm trying to find a balance and like, all right, I think I got my pocket. So it's been tough. It's a transition. So I think we all
yeah.
still learning in a sense.
That's true. And I've seen you out there. I've seen you kind of even from COVID happening to this movement of like, listen, enough is enough. You're going to love and accept our blackness. Period. At the end of the
Right,
day, we're tired. We're tired of conversations. So
right.
I've seen you putting on for your city. I've seen you out there like marching and getting your hands dirty. And see, a lot of people are always expecting us to like just sit in the background and do nothing. So it was so powerful just to see a young black woman out there that's kind of like giving it her all. How was that for you?
I felt like around there was so much going on. Like, so we had COVID that we were dealing with. We had a lot of people that were like losing family members. Like, it was really depressing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then we had after that,
George
then you
Floyd.
have
Yeah.
like, yeah, like the George Floyd situation. And I'm all about trying to find peace, like within self. Like, that's part of why I've created like the BU experience. I'm all about trying to find peace within self. So in that moment, I'm like, you know what? We're not able to do like what we used to do. How can I use what I have and still be able to like make a stand and say something to support like what's going on in this world while still trying to be safe? So I said, you know what? Like, I love
Yeah.
music. I've been doing events beforehand, poetry, whatever it is. I know a lot of artists. Like, why not do something where, that can bring, I've seen, so there were so many protests, and then you had the violent protests and a lot of all
Right.
of that going on. And I was just like, what I
Right.
haven't seen was something peaceful. I haven't seen something like, healing, therapeutic for us. Like, because I feel like even in the midst of everything that's going on, we still need like, peace. Like, we just need some sense, like some balance there. And I feel
Yeah.
like mental health is a big part of that. And I felt like, you know what, like, how can I create something where we can have just a moment, even if it's an hour, just a moment of peace, just a moment of unity. And back in the days during the civil rights movement, some of the best music was even created in those times. So I was like,
It's
you know
true.
what, let's do that. So I gathered like a bunch of my good friends. I was able to reach out to one of my friends, Chris Banks, who, like, he's part of our community. We all seen him,
Yeah.
grow up. And, I said, like, how can we, do this together? And come to find out, he was actually doing something that same day. And
Hmm.
we just was like, yo, let's just merge. Like, we're both
Yeah.
standing for the same thing. You have all the politicians. I have all the
All the
artists.
people.
Let's let's bring
Let's
it
do it.
together.
Right.
Yeah,
Let's
and
do
we
it.
did it, and it was like literally over 1,000. It was so much people out there. It was so
Yeah.
dope. Like, the artists, I'm glad that I was even able to give them an opportunity to share whatever it is that was on their heart, and like, it was received. It was well received. There was no
Yeah.
violence. It was nothing like that. It was literally very organized,
Uh huh.
good, and I think I left, and everyone left with some sense of like, like hope. At least,
Unity. Right. Hope.
unity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like more importantly, love. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
loving one another. You know what I'm saying? In that
Yeah.
moment, which was special. I was watching the clips that you were put because I think at that point in time I had COVID, so I couldn't really go out, and I was like, oh my god, talking about unity and like people from all over just dancing
Yeah.
and celebrating each other, which you don't normally see. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or like the media doesn't normally give us the opportunity to highlight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But to
Absolutely.
just back up a bit, you know, you are such a creative. Like you are
Yeah.
so dope, and I think you've been doing poetry for as long as I can remember. But
Yeah.
people who are watching right now may not know that you are a pastor's kid, and
Yeah.
like that in itself. Now I go to church. You know, I was in church my whole life, but you was a pastor's kid. So like
Yeah.
that's a different type of everything. How
Yeah.
was? And I think, well, you're the only girl.
Yeah. I am the only
Oh my
girl too.
God. Oh my God. How was that for you? How was that life growing up, just being a pastor's kid and then being the only girl?
Okay, so being a pastor's kid, for one, like, what many people don't understand is like there's literally like pressure from birth. Like, literally, like, you it's like you get out the womb and you're expected to be a certain type of person. Like, that's how I felt
Right.
since I was young, since I was a kid in church. It was just always like, I'm leading worship, I'm doing this. I was always looked up. Like, people were always looking up to me or looking to me to be perfect. Like, it's like there was no
Of
room
course.
for mistakes, even though we're all subject to fall, we're still human. I was still growing up. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm still gonna go through the same struggles that my other friends go through and stuff. And I feel like back in the days, I don't know that a lot of people understood that, you know what I mean? And because, you know, you have this
Yeah.
phrase where pastors' kids are the worst and all of that. But really and truly, we have a lot of the same and similar struggles that a lot of people have. In fact, it's harder on us because like their eye is on us. Imagine living a life like almost like these celebrities where you're born into
Mm-hmm.
fame, right? And then you don't really
Right.
have the opportunity to like you're born into that. So you kind of have to deal with what it is. So we never get the opportunity to, and you can't take yourself out of fame. I could never not make myself a pastor's daughter. The only thing I could
Right.
do is
Right.
probably not go to church. You know what I mean? So those
Right.
struggles and I've done that too. You know what I mean? So being a pastor's kid it's just been challenge. It's been a blessing. It's been a blessing,
Mm-hmm.
but it also has been super, super challenging, as well. And being
Yeah.
the only girl, it's like, you know, you would think that my father would have been strict. I think my brothers were more like, you know, on me
Uh,
than my dad was, but
then yeah.
yeah, but I think being the only girl, I always felt like a sense of protection. I always felt covered. I always felt covered spiritually. I always felt covered,
Mm-hmm.
you know, financially, emotionally, mentally. I always felt covered. So that was the
Yeah.
best part about being the only girl and being a pastor's daughter. Like I've just always felt protected and covered by my family. So that's the
Mm-hmm.
good thing.
Yeah. I love what you said, and I think even as us now as creatives, you know, people think that they put us on these platforms, and as pastors kids, they put you on a platform like you have to be perfect. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Did you forget that I was human? I'm sorry.
Facts.
Was there something that I signed that said that I had to be perfect? And like, so where did
Right.
you find your inspiration to start this writing and being creative in
Mm-hmm.
that moment?
So when I was younger in church, like I would, you know, sing, like I would lead worship and stuff. And at that moment, I would like try to write my own gospel songs at times, like, you know, try to see what I could create. And it
Yeah.
wasn't until I never really pushed it. It was just like, oh, I could do this, but I don't really know if this is what I want to do. I don't know if I want to sing. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
that I know how to sing. Like I grew up in a Spanish church. The level of
Right.
singing from that to going to a African American, a black church, them bricks.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh wait, I didn't sound like that. So I was trying to figure out like what was my lane. And so
Right.
you know, like it wasn't until I went through a real traumatic experience in my life where I literally, before that, one of my older brothers always wrote. He had like a little rap book. And what I used to do,
Mm-hmm.
I used to like go to, when I was in high school, I would steal his rhymes, and then I would like go to and they would have like a freestyle concert at my
Yeah.
high school, and I would act like it was my bars and it was really my brother's bars and stuff. And so so like it wasn't until though I went through a super like a traumatic experience in my life to when my brother literally was just telling me like well in the moment I couldn't write, but after that my brother was somebody who really helped me spiritually to get back to where I needed to go, where I needed to be, or where God wanted me to be. And so in that moment I started writing
Mm-hmm.
more about, like, I found a pocket, like I found a safe place writing,
Yeah.
because I was able to speak about like everything that I was going through: heartaches,
Mm-hmm.
heartbreaks, depression, feeling lost, feeling
Yeah.
like dealing with identity crisis and stuff like that. It was a lot. So I felt
Mm-hmm.
peace in writing, and that's what kind of got me to that point. And then one of my brothers invited me to like an open mic at a church, and I went and I did my first poem. And ever since then, like I was just unstoppable since then. Like
Mm-hmm.
after that, I just kept doing it. I kept doing it. I had another good friend. His name is Leon, who said, "Yo, come out to this event. It's a Christian spoken word event." I went, and that was the first time. And I grew up in church all my life, but that was the first time I was in a space where I saw so many believers, like young, like around our
Yeah.
age. And I was shocked. I didn't know that existed because I grew up in such a small church, and I loved it. I fell in love with the people, you know, just
Mm-hmm.
being able to meet people that were like minded at that time in my life. And so
Right.
that motivated me even more. And so I started to volunteer. Like they had a group called True Voices. I started to volunteer first. Then I started performing, and I became the director. co-director, then I became the director of the whole organization after a certain amount
Yeah.
of years. So yeah, I would say that really is kind of what influenced me to start to get into
Hmm.
that writing pocket.
And then so now you're going through this phase where you're now writing, you're now doing this, you're now speaking, you're spoken word now. You're now actually saying what you're writing.
Mm.
How was it hard for you to transition into that, knowing that you were still a pastor child? Because I know, like, at some point in time, people are like, oh, what are you talking about right now? Because there's no way, as a pastor's child, you're discussing these issues. You can't be going through this. Was that something
Mm.
that you had to go through?
Yeah, like there was a time where I felt like, how do I be myself
Right.
without feeling like I'm supposed to sound like this? What does
Mm-hmm.
a Christian poet sound like? And that was
Right.
a struggle for a minute. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be like anybody else. Like I grew up in the hood, so the slang is there sometimes, you know what I mean? And
Yeah. Right.
but like I know, I know how to speak. I know how to, I didn't know, should I be like, hey, in the stars in the skies, if I should be like that,
Yeah.
or if I should dumb down, like not dumb down, but I should like sound different, or should I like not talk about this? Because I've had churches literally that will request a certain type, like they would hear. I literally had a church one day, they asked me to go perform, and they said send me a video, so I sent them my self-love piece, and he was like, do you have something like about like God specifically? I'm like, but
Oh.
that's a testimony, like, you
Oh,
know what I
right.
mean? That's a
Right.
testimony piece about God, about what I went through and how God took me
And
out.
how
Like
he
what
made it way for you. Right.
exactly. So and you see, because of that is why I've struggled so hard at one point with just like, I'm not trying to write for 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 y'all. Like I'm trying to write for me, but I pray that everything, whatever God has given me, I feel like it's, you know,
It's
made
used
to
for
kind of,
somebody else. Right.
exactly, whether I'm talking about me going through a rough time in my life, whether I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about my family going through a rough time, whether it doesn't always have to sound churchy in order to
Right.
be received. And that was a big struggle. But at some point I said, you know what, I'm gonna be who I am. I'm gonna, if I sound a little bit aggressive, or if I'm really direct, or if
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about love and what I've encountered in a poem, that's what it's gonna be. And I did that, and literally I've had people come to me after crying, like, because you never know, like people, and a lot of the people really struggle with a lot of things and are afraid to talk about it because they
Yeah.
don't know that other people are going through it, or they don't know,
Mm-hmm.
like they can't, it's like courage, because me doing my poem and me speaking about a lot of the stuff I spoke about is healing. Like a part of it is
Yeah.
healing. So I've healed through poetry, like for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And so nobody can never tell me like how it's supposed to sound and how
Yeah.
it's supposed to be. And
Yeah.
and that's just what it is. I've learned to embrace who I am as a person,
Mm-hmm.
embrace who I
Yeah.
am as a poet. I'm still a believer. I still love God. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I like to have fun too, but I love
Yeah.
God. You can't tell
Yeah.
me nothing about God that I did, that I've experienced. And God has so much mercy on me and grace. And although like we fall short of it, like you can't tell me
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not writing and God is not using me because it doesn't sound like what the
Right.
church specifically wanted to sound like. So
Mm-hmm.
that literally, that was a good question, because that literally has been a struggle for the most
Yeah.
part in becoming myself as an artist,
Mm-hmm. And
and not being afraid.
I think that a lot of us, and even for myself, like a
Hmm.
lot of us go to church and you're because you said you're born and raised into this. No matter what the situation is, that's who you are. That's a part of who you are, right? And I feel like a lot of times, people look at us and they go, "Oh no, he's a church person or she's a church person," and they categorize you, and then they don't realize that even though you're going to these places, you're going to the houses of worship, you're lost.
Mm,
You're lost because everybody wants you to be everything else besides you. You know
yeah.
what I mean? So like
Yes.
even when it comes to like doing spoken word or doing something like this platform or your platform, people are always so quick to put you inside of something that is none of their business.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
to be completely honest, and I love the fact that you said, like, at the end of the day, God still loves me. Like
Hmm.
I love God, and you can't tell me nothing about God. And this whole ideology of tradition of what you've done to find God is not going to be my way. You
Right.
know what I mean? It doesn't
Right.
mean that we're not gonna meet at the same place. It just means that I'm willing to go a different route to get there. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right.
So then you decide to start getting into music. Now I
Yeah.
didn't even know you were into music like that. I just always thought that you were like into poetry and all that good stuff. But how did you veer off into event managing and artist managing? Because that's big.
Yeah.
That's big.
So so while I was with that group, it was True Voices, I've learned a lot about like organizing events. And I started because I was a director and a co-director, I started to like learn about like how do we plan it, how to, and I left it. I decided, I'm gonna leave because I no longer want to be a part of somebody's organization. I didn't really at the time. I wasn't really too keen of the leadership, and
Yeah.
I was just like, you know what, it's time for me to start my own thing. I know how to
Mm-hmm.
do it. I can do it. I know these people. This is just what it is gonna be. So I
Yeah.
decided to leave that and venture on to, creating my own events. And after I started doing that, I'm like, I had one of my good friends. I don't know if he's still watching, but my good friend, architect, like he used to host open mics for years, and I used to go to his open mics and stuff like that. And then me and him partnered together to do this event called the Next Collective. And aside from that, I was just trying to create a platform for artists to pretty much express themselves, but like a positive thing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want it to be like just Christian based. I wanted it to be,
Yeah.
like where we come and we just have a space, like where we could talk about love, you could talk about whatever it is that's bothering you, a space to heal and like purge and whatever, and we all kind of
Yeah.
share experiences. So that's pretty much, like what I was, looking, thinking about for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I started, I'm like, architect used to always be like, you know what, just, you got to spit a little
Yeah.
something, and I'm like,
Yes.
oh, no, I'm
Yes.
not going to put, no, not me. And so I was just like, you know what, let me just do it. And then one day I did it, and I'm like, this doesn't sound too bad. So after that, I started trying to, one of my greatest one of two women I'm super inspired by is Jill Scott and Erica Badu. I love
Yeah.
Jill Scott. That's my aunt in my head.
Mm.
One day I'm
Yeah.
gonna meet her and have a conversation with her because she just got so much soul. And so I
Her artistry is just, oh my God. Mm.
crazy. And I was
Bar
like,
none.
I don't know too many artists now that has that vibe where it's just like conscience and they can
Yeah.
rap and sing and do poetry and it's just a mood. And so I wanted to get in. I was like, how do I balance that? Like, if I know I can get people to feature and sing and do and rap, but I can do it myself. So I challenged myself and said, let me just try something different. And it worked.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? It's working. It worked. It's not a bad thing. And it's been going really good for me for the most part. I released my
Mm-hmm.
spoken word piece this year called Self Love. And I
Self
have
love.
yeah, and I have another one that's dropping really soon called Black Kings. And so,
Mm-hmm.
with all of that, maybe an EP might drop in there somewhere. But for now,
Yeah.
for now,
Y'all
just
hearing it
dropping
right
little
here, y'all.
singles.
Y'all hearing it right here. This is what y'all aware. Heard. Lyrical dreams.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Is that an organization that you built, that you founded, or that you're just a
Yeah.
part of?
No, so that's my business that that's when I started doing like event planning and stuff like that. So I've helped a lot of people, you know, I've helped like build, like I wouldn't decorate and stuff like that, but I'll do the events for them. Like, just creating the space for them to kind of have like their dream in one place. Like if you want the stars and the moon there, like we're gonna create this like experience for you. So it's just all about
Yeah.
like creating that experience for artists. Um and yeah, that's when I tried, I have this artist that I've helped manage, and that's been a journey. Like I'm never close to opportunities. So I've tried to see like what can I do here? Is this something that I can do? Does it work for me? And my a passion of mine is just helping. Like if I can help one person accomplish their goal, or if it's
Oh
just
no, 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 no,
all
no,
about
no!
like
Please.
that space. Wait, it's good now? Okay. It's there now?
Yeah, you're
Okay.
good. You're good.
Okay. Yeah, so just creating that that space for them. So that's when I did Lyrical Dreams, and it's been cool. Like I still do like events, but we're COVID, so I can't really do
Yeah.
nothing right now. But yeah, we
Yeah.
still do events. I have a team, and we still do events when the opportunity presents itself. Or maybe something virtual
Hmm.
soon. Who knows? We'll see.
Right. So like what I love is your passion. Like, you are you're your own person. You're a spoken word artist, but then you go ahead and you pour into other people's dreams.
Yeah.
How who's poured into your dreams?
Mm,
Who's inspired you and kept you going?
mhm. That's a great question. I want to say, you know what? Sometimes I ask myself, like, sometimes I ask God, like,
Mm-hmm.
how? Like I have so much people that literally will call me. Like I literally like I gotta say God. Like I
Mm,
can't because
mm.
ain't nobody else. Like nobody else. I
Yeah.
had during April when the quarantine when all of that started, I did a prayer call for 30 days and I had put it on social media and I wanted everybody, it didn't matter. Like some days it would be 1 to 2 people on that prayer call. Some days it'll be more. But I was just like, if we're gonna get through this, like we need to our creator. Like that's the only way,
Yes.
that's the only person that's gonna help us get through this. And I try to put God first before anything. And I have to say that God is the person that is our creator. He's the one that's pouring into me so that I can pour in. Because I ask him all the time, like, where do I get this strength? Like I
Mm-hmm.
literally sometimes find myself like, you get in those spaces. I want to thank God for certain people too. Like I do have a great family. I have a supportive family. My dad, my mom. If ever I need advice and I need to talk to them, they're always there. I
Yeah.
have people that God has brought into my life as mentors, that I can talk to, and even certain friends, but not a lot. You can't talk to everybody about
Everybody, right.
yeah, but I thank God for I feel like he's created a space for me, like of people that he's brought into my life to help me in these trying moments. And that I have to be and even with that I have to thank God, for kind of holding me down with that. Cause I don't know, it's a lot. It's kind of like my dad
Yeah.
where, he as a pastor, I used to ask him like, how do you do it? Like people come to you to talk to you about everything. You know everything. So where do you
Mm-hmm.
get that space for you, Dad? You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
I have to ask
Right.
myself that. And I feel like maybe my ministry is not being a pastor, but maybe my ministry is what I'm
Mm.
doing now. You know what I mean? And
Right.
I only have to thank God for that. So, without God ain't nothing possible. I try to my best to just stay prayed up. We going through a lot right now.
Mm.
Like it's a
Yeah.
lot going on, and we can't do
Yeah.
it without him. Like I've literally had nights where I've cried and I said, God, I cannot do this no more. I've tried to make my
Mm-hmm.
own moves and not include God in it, but I was like, I can't do it
Yeah.
no more. So yeah,
Yeah. And I think that even goes into like learning your peace, self love. It even ties into that. Like knowing that in order for you to love yourself, you got to love God first. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
for
Because
sure.
God is love. You feel me?
Yeah,
So like,
for sure.
that's in part that plays in learning to love yourself. Talk a little bit about this piece. I was listening to it earlier, and I was like, damn, this is really good. Like this, it gave me chills. And I heard it before. I heard it before, but when you really are, I don't know if I just needed that inspiration, but it gave me chills. So talk about it and
Yeah.
what inspired you to write it.
Um, self love. So self love came from I went through a real a hard relationship. Like I was in a relationship. I
Mm-hmm.
left church at that time. I was like my early 20s, like 2019, and I didn't go to
Yeah.
church anymore. And I got in a relationship, and I gave that relationship like my all. Is the service good? I think my service is good. I had to get the Wi-Fi. Is it good?
Oh, I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Can you
Okay,
hear
it's
me?
good now. I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, it's good now. All right. So yeah, so self love. I wrote that a while ago, and self love came from went through a bad relationship. I put my all into it, and I completely lost myself in it. Sometimes we get in situations and we give so much of ourselves, we pour so much out, And at that time, like I didn't even have the strength. Like I poured everything out because I felt like what I was doing was the right thing. And what I was doing was pouring out, and I wasn't like, seeking God. I wasn't doing like the things I should have done to pour for anything to be poured into me. I didn't know how to do that. I was young. And so when I wrote that, I lost myself completely, and I talk about it. I got pregnant. I was in a relationship. I was pregnant. I had a miscarriage. And it was hard. It was rough, being a pastor's daughter first. And then it's like, how will everybody look at me? I've struggled with that. I didn't want to go back to my dad's church. I wanted to go to another church while I was going through it. So it was really rough for me at the time. And I have to thank God and my family because they were there supporting me throughout the whole process, And so that, like, when I wrote Self-Love, that was healing. It was funny because like about 2 years ago, the guy that it's about, like, it's a true story, and the guy it's about, he was like, yo, I heard, because I used to perform it a lot, and then I bumped into him. He's like, yo, I heard that you wrote like a poem like about me, I guess, and I was just like, well, I did actually,
right,
and I let him hear it, and he was just like, I didn't even know that I hurt you like that, like not until he heard the poem. And he was just like, dang, like, I didn't know that I really hurt you like that. Yeah. And I'm like, well, sometimes you don't know. Like, you're young and you don't really, I just blame it on, you were who you were at the time. Years later, I healed from that completely. I thank God I went through it. But I will always tell women, like, never forget about who you are. Try to be that, and that's where the BU comes from. The BU experience comes from really trying to get in tune with self, like, and getting in tune with self is not just saying I'm beautiful every day. It's really trying to dig deep, like eating better, thinking differently, taking care of your body, taking care of your your mind. Like, it's a lot that comes into becoming, and a lot that comes into self-love is huge. It's not just about saying I love myself.
Right.
What are you doing to heal yourself?
Right.
And just because you're saying healing doesn't mean you're like, people think like, oh my God, I say healing, you're broken. You don't even have to be broken completely to heal. There could be other things and spaces for you to heal. So self-love came from a really, really dark place and a low place in my life. But right now, anybody that hears it, everybody gets the same reaction, like, dang, like, and that's what I'm glad that people are able to just share that experience with me, understand like what I really went through. It was really a vulnerable moment. It's tough, hard to talk about stuff like that, without feeling like you're gonna get judged. And I felt like, what, I don't care. I'm gonna put this out there because there's a lot of other women out here, a lot of other people out here that truly needs healing and that's truly going through the same thing, even in church. You know what I mean? A lot of girls that came up to me in church hugged me crying because of what they internally dealt with. People that didn't go to church that hugged me crying. I've had women come to me crying literally. And I just thank God that I'm able to, in some shape or form, that home, that piece was, went to that, took that route. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah.
I think it opens people up to realizing that at the end of the day, you have to sit with yourself when you go home at night. You understand what I'm saying? So like when you talked about like people saying the words, I love you and I'm beautiful, that's the start. But that's not even the key to get into the door. You know what I mean? Like, you have to do the work. You have to show up for yourself because it's only you at the end of the day. When you go home, it's only you looking at yourself at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So if you don't love you and you don't really appreciate you and you're not dealing with the issues that are deep down inside, how could you give that love to somebody else? You know what I'm saying? And I love going when you go live because you dive into basically a lot of expectations. Like, listen, this is what it is. We're going to call it what it is, and we're going to talk about how we can either fix it and change it so that we can be a union, or how to get rid of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, because this shit is toxic. Period. You know what I'm saying? And I think I find myself sometimes, you don't realize that people in some small ways inspire you. I look for it. I look for you to go live because I'm like, yo, she about to talk about some real stuff. And the people she brings on in her circle are just as thorough. Like, listen, I'm calling it what it is. Now, you may try to talk around the topic, but this is the shit right here. This is it. This is it. And we're gonna discuss it. We're gonna discuss toxic masculinity. We're gonna discuss this. You know, we're gonna discuss that because I want you to know what I'm not going to accept anymore. So when did you get to? Was it after that whole breakup situation when you got to the place where you were like, listen, this is what I'm no longer going to allow. This is where I'm at right now. Like, what was the journey for you? Because I know it wasn't overnight. How was that journey trying to get back to a sense of normalcy?
Yeah, I was broken. I was lost. So I had to literally find myself again. I really was going through some severe anxiety, like attacks, panic attacks. Like, it was bad, you know, and I had to get back to a place of like finding my mind, you know, kind of get into that peaceful place. I used to be like praying like all the time, literally. Like I would pray like every night, like, God, I used to be crying like, God, I'm too young to go through this. Like, why am I going through this? All my other friends are out. Like, I was real low down at that moment. But yo, that pushed me. So like after I got into my bag and I'm like, I'm working again, I'm in school again, yo, I was like, you know, and I got to myself. I was starting to become myself. I said, God, like, I'm here and I'm never turning my back on you again. I don't care what happens. And while I'm here, I'm going to do whatever it is that you need me to do. And it may not look like what it looks like for everybody else. And, you know, my journey, my ministry doesn't look like what it looks like for everybody else, even as a pastor's daughter. So I don't have to be like, oh, the bishop or this person will have this title. I done volunteer at detention centers and jails, and I'm mentoring all the time. I'm going to high schools and junior high schools, and I'm mentoring all the time. So to me, it's like this. It's more than just that. That alone like motivated me on a different level. And so now when it comes to relationships, and then on top of that, like relationships, it's been tough with that because it's like you're kind of told the type of person you need to be with as well, in a sense. So that messed me up for a long time too. When I get older, I'm like, man, where's this guy that y'all talking about? I don't see him. And if I do see him, or if I do date this person that they want me to date, like, he broke my heart. Why? Like, so I'm just like, it's in my life, whoever I'm with, relationship, whoever I marry may not look like what people expect him or what they would think. It may not be that. And people just gotta, I know my growth in this process. I know, like, when it comes to relationships, I'm like, oh, that's a dub. Like, I'm not tolerated. It's like,
and you do not play. You do not play. Like, yo, I gotta tell you this story. We talked about this on her live the last time. This girl right here went on a date with somebody, right? And the dude poured himself some water and didn't pour her no water. And she was like, you know what?
I'm never going on a date again.
I gotta go.
That was the first and last date. That was the first. I don't care. Like, I was like, yo, like, at the end of the day, like, I look at how you, like, those are key things, because it's like, it was so small. It was so small, but it was just a thought. I was thirsty too. It's hot outside. You could have just pulled me some water and you didn't think about me. Could it have been a growing moment and I could have told him? It could have, but at the time I just was like, I'm good. Like, that's just what I didn't want. And I think now with relationships, you know, I think the problem is that a lot of us, like, literally just take whatever is given, like, afraid to say, like, oh, this is not what I like. And I tell women that all the time, when a man is ready to leave you, he's going to leave. If he's going to cheat, he's going to cheat. If he's not going to, like, whatever he wants, he's going to do. You got to do what you need to do and what you want to do for you. Don't wait and think, like, what is he going to think? Like, what is he going to do? No. You do what you got to do, what's best for you. Because at the end of the day, like, you need to be good with the decisions that you make. So, like, that's how I am now. Now it's just more so, like, you know, if this is not peaceful for me, if this journey is not peaceful for me, I'm not with it. I got to feel at peace. I got to feel like this is something that's going to edify me in some shape or form. We got to be able to, like, if you're my friend, what are we pouring into each other? You know what I mean? And I look at that when it comes to, you know, friendships and relationships. What can you pour into me? What can I pour into you? Like, what are we really doing for each other? And if we can't pour into each other's lives, then it doesn't make sense for us to be here.
It's not meant to be, right?
Yeah. So that's just that's how that's been ever since that journey. And like now when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
like relationships, I just be like, eh.
So
But yeah.
you now you kind of knowing everything you know in this moment, what would you tell younger Delsy?
Ooh. I would tell younger me, to just go after. Don't don't procrastinate. I used to procrastinate a lot on certain things. Did the service go out? Okay, it's back.
Yeah.
Sorry, my service is in and out. Okay, so I used to procrastinate a lot. So the I would tell
Yeah.
myself, the younger me, like don't procrastinate, like don't think about it. Like there was a time where I just wanted to pick up and go to LA and move there. I should have done it. You know what I mean? Like there was a
Mhm.
time where I felt like, even now I feel like, yo, I just want to go to the UK. I mean, not right now, but you know, I wanted to go to the UK and just live there for 6 months. So the
Yeah.
younger me, I would just tell the younger me, like, just do it. Like, don't think about it. Don't procrastinate.
Mhm.
Do it. So, and that's my advice for people.
Yeah.
Like, don't sit and think, like, damn, what should I? I don't, just go for it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm 31. I don't have any
Yeah.
kids. I'm not married yet. I could still go for it. So, you know, that's what I tell myself
Right.
now. And that's what I would have told myself back then. Like, just do whatever it is that you feel like you need to do. You know what I'm saying? Just stay prayed up,
Hmm. Yeah.
keep God first, and
And
go
what
for it.
would you tell? What would you tell? Like, you know, there are so many other preachers' children that are probably going through what you went through, and it's kind of like trying to find their own voice in this church, in this, you know. What would you tell them?
I would tell them to just be comfortable with being themselves. Like, don't hide who you are. Don't
Yeah.
hide who you are. Be you. Find someone that you can talk to. Don't go to church for nobody. Go, if you're gonna
Mm.
go for yourself. Go for you,
Yeah.
because you know you're there for your soul. Don't go there thinking like, I'm going here for people, because people
Mm.
will disappoint you no matter where you go. So I will always tell, like, all the PKs, to all my PKs out there, don't do it for nobody. Do it for you. Do it for God. Don't do it for nobody. And stay
Yeah.
true to yourself. Don't be afraid to be who you are. I'm
Mm.
never gonna be fake. I used to tell my mom, like, I'm not gonna front. Like, if I like my hair like this, I'm gonna go like this to church. Like, I'm not gonna
Right.
like front to portray a certain image. And for what? Like, there's people, I knew girls that would have skirts down all the way to the ankles and be bugging and be
Hmm.
wilding. So it's like, I'm
Right.
not gonna sit here and try to be something that I'm not. And that's where a lot of, I feel, PKs get lost, because they
Hmm.
try to be something that they're not, and
Right.
because they're
To
afraid
please
to be
somebody that doesn't
themselves.
even care.
Yeah, and they're afraid to be themselves. So be yourself. Be yourself. Be
Yeah.
vocal. Be loving. Be respectful. Trust God, and don't go for nobody. Go for, because you
Mm.
truly want to build a relationship with God. Because you truly want to find healing within yourself. Do it for you. Do it
Yeah.
for God, and everything will fall into place. Promise.
Mm. Good
Yeah.
stuff. Good stuff. What upcoming things do you have going on, Dels?
So I had my book was supposed to come out earlier in the beginning of the year, like, well, April. And due to COVID, I
Yeah.
had wanted to like do a book tour and everything at the same time. And when this happened, I'm like, oh, it just kind of messed up my plans. And so
Yeah.
after that happened, I said, okay, you know what? What I'll do is just like create a podcast. So I'm literally working on the episodes now, because I was doing the audio, and a team reached out to me to help me out with like making it like kind of TV show ish, like,
Yeah.
and so they're gonna help me with that, and you know that for now, you know, I guess it'll build up the hype of the book, because the
Hmm.
podcast is called Diary of a Pastor's Kid,
Yeah.
and the book is called The Pastor's Daughter: Stereotype versus Reality. So it kind of, you know, I think the podcast will help people just identify, get to know who I am. We could talk,
Yeah.
chop it up with other PKs and other people that grew up in church, and we could talk about whatever it is, and just kind of build the
Hmm.
hype to the book. So that's what I'm doing right now. Also, what else? What else? Oh yeah, so I have my single dropping, Black Kings. I'm actually
Yes.
gonna have that dropping Labor Day weekend. So I'm doing a visual for that as well. The
Okay.
self love, a lot of people love. I feel like doing a self love visual, but we'll see. But Black Kings is really what's coming out next. And like I said, maybe an EP will slide out there.
Uh
Maybe
oh.
we'll see.
Uh oh. Uh oh. Real low,
we'll
man.
we'll see.
But I thank you so much for coming by. Just being transparent. Guys, let me tell you something. there are people in your life who you don't even know inspire, that you don't even know kind of affect you and inspire you and kind of touch you. Delsy's one of those people who, like I said earlier, I've known since I was young, sandbox, same projects, grew up, everything. And to see you come here in this moment is so unbelievable. It is so special because you never know, you know what I'm saying? And you don't know nobody's journey. So I'm honored to be able to get to know you in this space, you know what I mean? And to be able to have these type of conversations, you know what I'm saying? I feel like one of the things that, you know, you were talking about, like having to go through it. And I feel like, you know, when God is calling you to be something special for his kingdom, he's going to put you through all the trials and tribulations so that way you can be a testimony to somebody else who's going through the same thing or who will go through the same thing. So I just encourage you to continue. Keep on doing it. Keep on pressing. Keep on believing and never give up on yourself and your dreams. And for those of you who are watching, please, please, please go get Self-Love. It's streaming on all platforms. It is definitely, if you can get that as a word, that's what it is. Look out for Black Kings. And she told you about this EP that she may sneak in. So listen for that. And her upcoming podcast, Delsy, we love you. Thank you once again for being here. Guys, tomorrow we are live with Darren D. Henson. He played Lem Van Adams on Soul Food. He plays in Family Business. He has a lot to talk about, and we can't wait to have him on the show tomorrow, 8 o'clock. Tune in. Delsy, you're welcome here anytime. I love you guys. Have a good one.
Bye.